When my audience asks me about my web designer journey, it tends to go like this. How did you find clients outside of your family and friends? How long did it take you until you were actually booked out in your business? How long did it take you until you started charging $2,500 or $5,000 or $9,000 per project? And the big one was always, can I really quit my job and do this? And while I always give my personal experience, it wasn't necessarily a reliable industry average statistic, so I decided to set out and find those answers on a greater scale. I surveyed 771 web designers and asked them things like, what were they doing before they became a website designer? If they had any experience before becoming a website designer, how much money they spent on professional development, how much they're making these days, how often they raise their prices, if they offer any other complementary services like copywriting or brand design or photography or any of those things. So today I want to share with you the most interesting findings of that study, but remember, if you want to read the entire thing, you can go get your hands on the full study at pbcourses.com/study. So how long does it take freelance web designers to start landing clients? A whopping 61% of web designers shared that they actually landed those first clients before officially launching their business to the world. Then we had 10% of those designers landing clients in 1 to 2 weeks, 7% in 3 to 4 weeks, 8% in 1 to 2 months, 6% in 2 to 4 months, and 5% took 4+ months for them to find clients. Now, how are our web designers finding clients so quickly? Let's take a look at the marketing methods which they use to bring in business. We asked them to respond to the statement, I typically find and land most of my web design clients through ... and the result was 34% of them get clients through referrals. Now, I know I can almost hear a collective groan from all the aspiring web designers who are struggling to find those first few clients when they see that referrals, shocker, are the number one way that web designers seem to be booking out their businesses these days. Why? Because, well, it is pretty hard to live off referrals alone if you have exactly 0 past clients referring you. If you need help finding those first few clients who will then get the referral ball rolling for you, then you need to take my quiz at pbcourses.com/quiz. It will help you figure out which client finding method matches your personality type and will come the most easily to you. And then after referrals, Instagram, Facebook, and content marketing are the most popular client finding methods. Next, I asked our designers what is the average price that they are charging per project in US dollars. So looking at this chart, it is clear that there's no one going rate for website design. It really runs the range. We have designers charging as little as $250 all the way up to $20,000 plus per project, depending on the scope and what is being offered and their experience level. So if you've ever worried about pricing your services too high, just know that you are far from the most expensive designer out there, and you probably haven't even come close to the limit of what business owners are willing to pay for a website these days. On the other hand, if you're trying to compete on price, keeping your rates super low in the hopes of outbidding other designers and landing more clients, just know there's always going to be someone cheaper than you, so not a great strategy. But in terms of what's average, it appears that $2,500 to $5,000 is the range that is currently the most standard rate, followed closely by the $1,000 to $2,500 crowd. Next, we compared how much web designers were charging versus how many years experience they had as a freelance website designer. So we can see that most new designers surveyed were charging in the $2,500 and under range depending on the project. Now those with at least 1 year of experience were averaging more like $2,500 to $5,000 ballpark, and designers with 2+ years experience were consistently hitting that $5K plus benchmark. We can also see that with each passing year of experience, the number of members in the coveted $10,000 plus project club was slowly creeping up. But what I didn't expect was that designers in our 5+ years experience category actually had fewer total people in the $5,000 plus arena. Now this likely points to one of two things. Either A, their offerings may change the further along they are in their business. For example, instead of charging $5,000 for a website in 2 weeks, maybe they are now offering $1,000 or $2,000 VIP designer day rates instead. So the cost per project may go down slightly, but the number of projects they can fit on their calendar goes way up, making their business model much more scalable. And/or option B is it may be time for some of these designers to seriously consider upping their prices. All right, so next let's look at the effect investing in online courses and coaching programs tends to have on the average price per project being charged by website designers. As someone who teaches people how to be website designers and loves online education, information, I was especially curious to know the results on this one. If you followed along with me for any length of time, you'll know that when it comes to learning a new skill in your business, I am a huge fan of skipping the expensive trial and error period and heading straight to the source, aka the expert, for that thing. And according to our study, I might just be onto something. So of the 771 web designers surveyed, 449 of them, which is over 58%, said they had invested money in some sort of professional development when starting their web design business. Now, looking at our self-taught designer crew, web designers who had invested less than $500 in professional development or hadn't taken any paid courses or programs at all, 73% of them were still charging clients less than $2,500 per web design project. And that is in comparison to those who went all in, investing $5,000 or more to learn the skills they needed to run a successful web design business, where just 38% of them fell into that sub $2,500 range. Now, let's talk about premium prices. Those who were considered self-taught had less than 2% of designers charging $5,000 plus per project, whereas our highest investing group had over 23% in the high-end designer price range, meaning that they were 11.5 times more likely to be charging premium rates for their services. Now, while of course the initial investment feels scary for someone just getting started on a baby business budget, thankfully becoming a freelance web designer isn't like getting started in other careers where you first have to go to school or to university for years to get a degree in your field and then spend another 5+ years paying off your student loans, whether or not you actually ended up getting hired in that field at all. So if you're smart about how you price your packages and services as a designer, you can make back your educational investments with your first 1 to 2 clients, which I love. So again, that just hits home. Why spend months or years trying to figure out how to reinvent the wheel? Just learn it from the experts. Someone somewhere has already learned these lessons the hard way and has condensed everything they know into an easy to digest resource or step-by-step program that will take you just a few days or weeks to complete. That is literally exactly why I created my Square Secrets business course, to help you launch your web design business and book clients way faster than you ever could if you did it solo. Moving right along, let's talk about the average number of designers who have chosen a specific niche. So I was super curious to know how their responses would differ between designers charging premium prices versus those not yet charging premium prices. So most experts will always tell you that the quickest way to start consistently attracting and landing legit high-paying clients is to niche down. If you're unfamiliar with niching, basically it just means that you focus all of your marketing efforts and your packages and you make them all appeal to one very specific type of client rather than trying to cast your client finding net wide in hopes of missing out on any inquiries when you're first getting started. So the $1 million question is, are the riches really in the niches? So the possible response options to this question were A, yes, I only take on a specific type of client or project. B, somewhat, I have a niche in mind, but I still accept other projects. And option C was, no, I currently work with anyone who is willing to pay me. And so it looks like of the designers charging less than $5,000, only 14% of those people had actually committed to niching down. Whereas in the group of designers charging $5,000 or more, only about 13% of designers hadn't niched down in some way. Now, the next question I wanted an answer to was how many freelance web designers actually end up being successful. One of the most frequent questions or hesitations I get from those who are on the fence about starting their own web design business is they say something like this. They're like, Paige, how many people who actually start web design businesses actually make it? That's kind of important before I make my decision to get into this. Success can mean a bajillion different things to as many different people, but for the purposes of this study, let's say that making it simply means getting your business to a place where you can say adios to your day job and go all in as a website designer. Now, I realize that not everyone who dreams of starting a web design business actually has their goal to go full-time as a website designer. So to get rid of some of the gray areas in our findings, we had designers respond to 2 statements. One, my web design business is currently, and then they could say full-time, side hustle, hobby, or that they're employed in someone else's business as a website designer. And then the second question, which we asked, was for those who weren't already full-time, was do you dream of taking your web design business full-time? This way, we were not marking someone down as unsuccessful if it was truly never their goal to go full-time in the first place. So first, let's take a look at how our group responded as a whole. The average number of freelance web designers with a full-time business versus a side hustle was 62% of them were full-time, 27% of them were side hustling part-time, 8% said design was a hobby for them, and 1% worked for someone else as a website designer. So of the 771 designers who participated, over 62% had already been able to ditch their 9-to-5 and make their freelance web design business their main source of income. Now this leaves 292 people, or 38% of designers, who are still working part-time or who are employed designers in someone else's business. But again, not all aspire to go full-time, so let's check in with our remaining 38%. we asked how many of our part-time web designers have goals of going full-time. 234 of them, or 80% of our side hustlers, hobbyists, or not yet self-employed designers, shared that they still dream of making web design their main source of income. So when compared to our total number of designers surveyed, excluding those who started their business with the intention of staying part-time all along, approximately 30% of designers had yet to reach their goal. So does that mean that those 30% of designers are all doomed to fail? Not at all. Many designers who dream of going full-time opt for running things as a side hustle at first at the beginning, while they work on tucking away enough savings to safely be able to kiss their cozy 9-to-5 paycheck goodbye. In fact, a fairly large chunk, 41% of these full-time hopefuls, reported in an earlier question that they had been at this whole web design business thing less than 1 year, so in all likelihood, they probably just hadn't gotten to that point yet, but are still likely on their way. If you found this interesting, be sure to grab the full results of the survey. It is way longer than what I just presented to you. There are way more super interesting findings for you to dive into. So if you want the full study and to get all of the report, then you can go to pbcourses.com/study and you can download the entire report of everything we asked to the designers and their answers. That is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed that. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Are you a web designer right now? Are you dreaming of being a website designer? Where do you fall? What are you charging in our range of prices? I would love to hear that from you in the comments below. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. It super helps the channel and I really appreciate it. And before you go, be sure to subscribe and hit the little bell button so you can be notified of more fantastic content just like this to help you along your web designer dreams. And if you're looking for more fantastic content, then I highly suggest checking out these videos too before you go.